I almost didn't make the call. That is the part that still sits heavy in my chest. It wasn't because I didn't care, and it wasn't because I was angry. I was just tired. Tired in the way adults get tired. Not from lack of sleep, but from carrying too many small things for too long. It had been a long day, the kind that starts early and never really ends. I remember standing in my kitchen, shoes still on, staring at my phone resting on the counter. The screen lit up with a missed call notification. Her name was there, Aunt Margaret. Everyone called her Aunt Maggie, but I never did. To me, she would always be Aunt Margaret. She had called earlier in the afternoon. I had seen it ring. I had even picked up the phone, then put it back down. I'll call her later, I told myself. I always told myself that. Aunt Margaret was not demanding. She never complained about people being busy. She understood how life worked. At least, that's what we told ourselves. She lived alone in the small house she and my uncle had shared for 40 years. After he passed, she stayed there, said it felt wrong to leave, said the walls still knew her. She liked to call in the evenings, not to say anything important, just to talk about the weather, about the neighbors, about what she cooked for dinner. Sometimes she would repeat the same stories, and sometimes I would listen half-heartedly, nodding even though she couldn't see me. That day, I told myself I didn't have the energy. I reheated leftovers, sat at the table, ate in silence. The phone sat there. I thought about calling, then thought about how long the conversation might be. I'll call tomorrow, I said out loud, but something about that felt wrong. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't a sign. Just a feeling. The kind that taps gently at your chest and says, "Pay attention." I picked up the phone again. I stared at her name, and for a moment, I almost put it down. Then I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. "Oh," she said, surprised. "I didn't think you'd call back tonight." Her voice sounded lighter than usual, happier. "I was just thinking about you," she said. "I didn't want anything. I just wanted to hear your voice." We talked about nothing important. She told me about a bird that kept landing on her windowsill, about how she burned her toast that morning and laughed at herself. I told her about my day, not the details, just enough to let her know I was there. At one point, she went quiet for a moment. "I'm glad you called," she said softly. Today felt long. I remember smiling. "I almost didn't," I admitted. She laughed. "Well, I'm glad you did." Before we hung up, she said something that didn't feel strange at the time. "Thank you for calling me back," she said. "Sometimes it feels nice to know I still matter to someone." I told her she always mattered, and I meant it. We said goodbye. I slept better that night than I had in days. The next morning, my phone rang early. Too early. If okay you love your mother, then please like my video and subscribe my channel. Too early. It was my cousin. Her voice sounded different. Careful. "She passed away in her sleep last night," she said. For a moment, I couldn't understand the words. Passed away. Last night? After we talked. I sat down slowly, the phone still pressed to my ear. I thought about the call, the one I almost didn't make. I thought about how close I had come to saying, "Tomorrow." If I hadn't called, her last conversation would have been silence. That thought still makes my hands shake. At the funeral, people talked about how kind she was, how she remembered everyone's birthdays, how she never forgot to check in. They spoke about her as if she had been so good at loving others. What they didn't say was how quietly lonely she had become, how much that phone call meant. Later, my cousin pulled me aside. "She mentioned you last night," she said. "She said you called her. She sounded happy." That was when I cried. Not loudly, not in front of everyone, just quietly, sitting alone in my car afterward. I cried for the call I almost didn't make, for all the times I had rushed her off the phone, for all the conversations I treated as small. I learned something important that day. People don't always call because they need something. Sometimes they call because they need to feel remembered. And sometimes the smallest effort, a few minutes, a simple call, becomes the most important thing you ever do. I keep her voicemail saved on my phone, the one where she says my name slowly, warmly. I don't listen to it often, but I keep it there, as a reminder that love does not always come in big gestures. Sometimes it comes in answering the phone when you feel tired. If you are listening right now, and someone has been calling you, someone you've been meaning to call back, please don't wait. Make the call, because one day, you might realize how close you come to missing a goodbye you didn't even know you needed.